So we had the amazing opportunity to visit Iceland. Here is our 8-day trip itinerary. Day 1, we landed in Keflavik, which is their international airport, and then we went ahead and got brunch at Sandholt, which was located in Reykjavik, which is the capital city that has a ton of amazing restaurants. And then we checked into our Airbnb, which was about an hour and a half away from the airport. Day 2. What better way to get over jet lag than sit in a beautiful geothermal oceanside lagoon? We went to the Sky Lagoon, which was phenomenal. I have a lot more on this in our previous vlog, and here's little clips of the experience. After the Sky Lagoon, we had dinner in Reykjavik, which was on the way home to our Airbnb at the Old Iceland restaurant. I highly recommend their lamb and cod. Day 3. We wanted to explore the northwest side of Iceland. We were not too far away as far as our Airbnb and just had a couple hours within the day after being a little bit jet lagged. We saw a couple of waterfalls, the Kirkjuvelsfoss. These names are super long and I'm sorry if I'm saying them wrong, as well as the Bjarnafoss waterfall. The drive back, we were able to stop at the Settlement House restaurant, which is also a museum, and it was absolutely delicious. And then once arriving back at the Airbnb, we were absolutely delighted to be able to see the Northern Lights right from the back deck. Day 4. This was our Golden Circle day. We saw the geyser geothermal area, the Gullfoss waterfall, as well as the Skogafoss waterfall. Day 5, we went to the Blue Lagoon, which is definitely one for our bucket lists. If you haven't heard of it, it's the most beautiful blue lagoon. It's very different than the Sky Lagoon. The Blue Lagoon is a lot bluer in color. There's silica in the water, which is really good for your skin. And we had an amazing dinner at their lava restaurant, which is directly at the same spot, so we didn't have to go very far to have this really unique and beautiful dinner after having a luxurious day at the Blue Lagoon. Day 6 was the do nothing day. We basically just spent all day at the Airbnb and didn't have any plans at all, which I love having these moments in vacations to truly just enjoy doing nothing. Day 7. This was South Coast Day. We wanted to get up a little bit earlier and venture down to the southern part of Iceland. The drive was about 5.5 hours to get to the first spot, and then a couple hours to drive through and then back. So we went to Seljalandsfoss, the Black Sand Beach, which was absolutely phenomenal. It is so cool to see sand that black, and it was so peaceful. There wasn't many people at all there. So we took a long walk, and at sunset, we went to the Reynisfara Beach, which has a really amazing rock mountain formation, and was such a unique place to see in person. It kind of gave me Game of Thrones vibes. And we were here up until sunset and drove back home to the Airbnb, which was about a 6-hour drive. Day 8. So this is officially our last day in Iceland. It is checkout day and we take a flight home later in the evening. So we decided to just take our time packing and enjoy the last couple hours before check-in. We were able to get a late checkout and then drive back to catch our flight. Hey guys, so I just got back from my Iceland trip last week and I'm so excited for you guys to watch this vlog. I got a lot of questions on my itinerary, so I tried to kind of make this vlog in a way that gives you ideas of things to do if you're ever thinking of going to Iceland, which I highly recommend. So this trip I planned before and did a whole PowerPoint, so I'll be kind of referencing it. But basically what we did was we went and saw the Golden Circle and did a little bit of sightseeing on the south coast, as well as went to the Blue Lagoon and Sky Lagoon. I uploaded a video. I think it's probably going to be going up a week before this video, so be sure to check that out, where I give you guys a tour of our Airbnb we stayed at. That was absolutely beautiful, and our experience at the Sky Lagoon, which is going to be different. Today's video is going to be about the Blue Lagoon and the different sightseeing we did throughout the trip. So I really hope that you guys enjoy it, and let's get into the vlog. After landing in Iceland, we were a little bit jet lagged, so we ended up having that first day be spent at a spa, the Sky Lagoon. You're going to be doing a lot of driving when you're in Iceland for sure, so getting a car rental is really recommended. There are really good tour group buses where they have people just be able to enjoy the scenic routes and kind of have the destinations already planned out. But we liked the idea of having a choice on how long we spent in certain areas, what areas we wanted to go to, and when. So we basically could have hit like a lot of different things. The South Coast and Gold Coast are loops. Golden Circle is a smaller area that hits like the national park, and some of the main attractions that we wanted to see was the waterfall they have there, which is I think the second largest waterfall. We're at our first waterfall. Big. Pulling up to the second waterfall. It is beautiful. Oh, hey, you're a jerk. You're a jerk. Where we at, baby? Bajornivore. And there's a bunch of different just gems throughout this whole Golden Loop, which is really popular amongst tourists and just like a must-see if you don't have much time, just do that. But I really found that after doing research that the South Coast specifically was known for a lot of just beautiful places, but it is further out from kind of like the main area. It's about a 5 to 6 hour drive to get to the South Coast from where the airport is and where we stayed, and that's just the south part. If you go more east, you'll be able to see even more, and depending on how long you want to spend in those spots and how many spots you want to stop at will really determine how much you do in the end after the trip is over. So I really recommend figuring out what places you want to hit and the route that would take, where you could just hit as many as you can along that road, because you can really drive around the whole island of Iceland and there's just spots everywhere. It's absolutely stunning, but it is, like I said, a lot of driving. So just figure out what spots you really want to hit and hit those. And if you don't have much of a plan, I have a slide here that might help. There's a lot of spots that are kind of highlighted along the whole island, along the south coast, and within the Golden Circle that I think are worth seeing. And I'll feature the ones that I went to, but also the ones that I would have went to if I had more time.
wrapping up a full day at the spa at the Blue Lagoon. What do you think, babe?
I think that it is up to hype if you go to the retreat spa.
Do the retreat spa.
Yeah.
I concur.
We did like a whole sauna and a cold plunge, and they have like a skincare ritual. And if you go during a weekday, you get kind of like a nice little private oasis. And it's very blue, as they say. And just to sort of insert a little bit of like 5 things I've learned or I wish I knew before going to Iceland, just as kind of like tidbit here since I'm back now and I've had time to think about it. So the first thing I learned about Iceland is that the food is amazing. I didn't really have many expectations for the food. I've heard that they're known for their lamb and their seafood, and I've never really been a big fan of lamb, and their lamb is amazing. It's all naturally, obviously locally sourced from Iceland itself, and the things that they feed these animals, I think really makes a huge impact, that they're able to kind of roam. And if you're a vegan or a vegetarian, then this probably doesn't apply to you, but if you are open to new cuisine or a foodie, I definitely recommend the lamb as being something that you at least try, as well as their cod. And pretty much every restaurant that we went to, there was the lamb and cod. Icelandic cuisine really loves to celebrate their local abundance and their local ingredients and whatever's in season, and this really reflects in their food. They have a lot of Michelin star restaurants for how small of a space it is, and I can see why. Everything's done with a lot of intention, so highly recommend the lamb and cod when you go. Yeah. Number 2, I would say, is that their water is so good. It is such clean water. I'd say probably the best water I've ever had. Any tap is just as good as the best bottled water that you can possibly get. So that's just something to note. You can literally just use any tap, fill up a water bottle or your hydro flask and be set. And it's the water that goes through the showers as well. And it's just stuff like that when you're in a new place and you recognize it. It's just really cool, honestly. The third thing I would say is to make sure that when you're in Iceland to fuel up whenever you get the chance. There's a lot of driving, and you get through gas pretty fast, and gas is kind of more on the expensive side since it is an island. So there are going to be times where you just don't see a fuel stop and you don't have much of a choice in that case if you run out of fuel. So whenever you get the chance to, even if you're half tank, just make sure that you're staying on top of keeping your fuel up, just so that way if you end up in an area where they just don't have gas stations for a while, you're going to be okay. The fourth thing I would say is that Iceland isn't as icy and snowy as I thought it would be. So make sure that you look up the weather beforehand. We went in February, so there was absolutely like no snow on the roads or ice. It didn't rain that much, but the wind is a huge factor that I kept seeing when I was doing research, that the temperature may be a certain way, but consider the wind factor, and that it has just sudden changes in weather. It can be completely clear one second and then the next it's super windy and just like downpour. So make sure that whatever you're wearing is water repellent. So if you happen to want to go sightseeing and it just starts raining like crazy, at least you have like a shell or like a waterproof coat. You don't necessarily need like snow gear as much unless you're going in the winter. That's a completely different story, so be sure to keep that in mind. Yeah, just look at the weather forecast before you go, and just note that islands do have kind of a fast moving weather system. And this reminds me of kind of like Hawaii or, more tropical places where all of a sudden you'll get just like a downpour and then it'll be fine. It's kind of the same thing, but with wind and rain, at least during the time that I went. And I think during summer months, it's just all around a completely different landscape and weather attached to that, so keep that in mind. And the fifth thing that I would take away from this trip is I definitely felt like I was in a different world. The landscape is just like any I've ever seen, and there's just absolute natural gems everywhere. But even just driving to and from the different waterfalls and attractions, the actual drives themselves are just absolutely beautiful. It made the time go by a lot faster. So if you have a plan of going to the South Coast, I really recommend starting your day early so that way you can enjoy the drive throughout. You're not feeling rushed, because it's not necessarily the destinations that are the best, it's the whole journey, and the road is just beautiful the entire way. Definitely try to start your days early, like I said, and they don't really have any traffic at all, which is super nice. Not many cars on the road. It's not super populated, so it's really like you're navigating a different planet with a different landscape, and there's not many people around, so it gives you such a sense of just no rush, just enjoy nature for what it is. Take the stops whenever you want to, and it's just a beautiful place. So I definitely recommend absolutely everyone to check it out if you haven't, and if it's on your list, I would definitely advise going. And the northern lights are just like the cherry on top. It isn't guaranteed to see them, so make sure, this is like a kind of last little tip, make sure that you use some sort of aurora forecaster that can somewhat help you predict if there's going to be a aurora light storm in the area that you're at on a specific night. We were able to see one storm, as they call it, one of the nights we were there, and it was absolutely breathtaking. So hopefully you'll be able to see them whenever you are there, and don't miss that chance if you can use that forecaster to increase the likelihood of you seeing that. Recommend that very, very highly, because it's a once in a lifetime opportunity to see them, and it's honestly an experience like nothing else to just take in the sky in colors that you've never seen it be. So yeah, I hope that these tips are helpful and that you enjoy this video, and yeah.